Hello and welcome to Indus News, live from Islamabad. I am Aneeb Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the top stories first. In Pakistan, Army spokesperson Major General Babar Iftikhar has reiterated that there is no military solution to the Afghan conflict and talks are the only way forward. In an interview, he said that Pakistan will not allow its soil to be used against anyone. He added Pakistan has increased security along the Afghan border and 90% work on the fencing has been completed. To a query, the spokesperson said India's investment in Afghanistan was aimed at damaging Pakistan's interests, but it failed to do so. In occupied Jammu and Kashmir, Indian troops have martyred 3 more Kashmiris during a military raid in Islamabad district. This has raised the death toll from Indian atrocities to 9 since Thursday. China and Russia have slammed the United States for blacklisting their companies and individuals. China's foreign ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin said Beijing will take all necessary steps to protect its interests, while Moscow said the US action questions its willingness to normalize bilateral ties. Brazil has reported more than 1,500 COVID-19 daily deaths, while the country's caseload crossed the 19 million mark. In Pakistan, 35 people lost their lives and more than 1,800 tested positive overnight. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 4 million lives and has infected nearly 186 million others. Well, these were the top stories. News in detail after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now let's have the news in detail. We'll start from Pakistan, where the Army's spokesperson Major General Babar Iftikhar has reiterated that there is no military solution to the Afghan conflict and talks are the only way forward. In an interview, he said the country will not allow its soil to be used against anyone. The spokesperson said Islamabad has no favorites in Afghanistan and the Afghan people have to decide for their future. He added, Pakistan has increased security along the Afghan border and 90% work on the fencing has been completed. Responding to a query regarding India's role, he said New Delhi's investment in Afghanistan was aimed at damaging Pakistan's interest, but it failed to do so. Major General Babar Iftikhar said, despite Indian propaganda, the world has realized that Pakistan has done all it could to facilitate the Afghan peace process. Now, US Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad says America's military engagement in Afghanistan is coming to an end, not its commitment. The tweet comes as Khalilzad is back in the region to push for negotiated settlement in the war-torn country. The envoy is scheduled to visit Qatar, Pakistan and Uzbekistan during his tour. A statement by the White House said the region could reap the benefits of peace if the Taliban and Kabul reach a peace deal. Earlier, Turkey said it has agreed with the United States on the scope of how to secure Kabul airport after the withdrawal of foreign forces. Violence in Afghanistan has surged as the Taliban continue to make territorial gains. 4 civilians were killed in 2 separate explosions in Kabul and Kandahar provinces earlier in the day. Meanwhile, in Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, Indian troops have martyred 3 more Kashmiris during a military raid in Islamabad district. This has raised the death toll from Indian atrocities to 9 since Thursday. Meanwhile, Indian forces also arrested Muslim cattle traders ahead of Eid al-Adha. Kashmir has been under a strict curfew since New Delhi revoked its autonomy in August 2019. Prime Minister Narendra Modi last month held a meeting with Kashmiri politicians in a bid to resume the political process. but they refuse to be the part of any power game until the valley's autonomous status is restored. Moving on, China and Russia have slammed the United States' decision to blacklist their companies. China's Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin said Beijing will take all necessary steps to protect the interest of its enterprises. He said Washington is using the so-called entity list as a tool to suppress companies in China under the pretext of human rights. Moscow has earlier said the U.S. added Russian companies to the blacklist without providing details about the alleged violations. It said such moves question Washington's willingness to normalize bilateral ties. Now, Ukraine says hackers linked to the Russian government attacked the website of its naval forces. In a statement, the Defense Ministry said the hackers published fake reports about the Sea Breeze 2021 military drills. It said there have also been unsuccessful denial of service attacks on the Defense Ministry portal. The ministry said the entire Kremlin propaganda machine was involved in the operation. It said the threat has now been eliminated and the Navy's website will be restored in the near future. Moscow opposed the exercises in the Black Sea that Kyiv started in late June, involving more than 30 countries. Now, Haiti has requested the United States and the UN to send troops to protect key infrastructure after President Jovenel Moise's assassination. The bizarre murder has pushed Haiti deeper into a political crisis which may worsen growing hunger and gang violence. Elections Minister Mathias Pierre says critical infrastructure, including airports and ports, might be targeted. Pierre said the security assistance will also ensure timely presidential and legislative elections. They are scheduled for 26th of September. In response to the request, a UN spokesperson said troops dispatch is a matter for the Security Council to decide. Meanwhile, the US says it has no plans to offer military assistance at this time. However, it will send senior FBI and Homeland Security officials to assist in the ongoing investigations. At least 9 people have been killed in a suicide bombing in Somalia's capital, Mogadishu. Authorities say car bomb targeted a government convoy carrying Police Commissioner Farhan Mahmoud. They said Mahmoud has survived the attack while a score of people has been injured. Police said Al-Shabaab militants' intention was to kill the commander. Claiming the responsibility, Al-Shabaab said they killed 4 police officers in the attack and injured 5 others. They said all of them were the police chief's bodyguards. Now, Brazil has reported more than 1,500 COVID-19 daily deaths, while the country's caseload crossed the 19 million mark. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 4 million lives and has infected nearly 186 million others. Details about the pandemic in this report.
Just a day after the World Health Organization announced that the worst of coronavirus pandemic is over for many countries, a panel of experts has told G20 that COVID-19 is probably only a forerunner of increasingly dangerous pandemics in the future. The panel said the governments need $75 billion over the next 5 years to prepare for them. Meanwhile, South Korea has posted the highest ever number of overnight infections for a 3rd consecutive day. Australia's New South Wales state also reported its biggest daily rise in locally acquired cases this year. Authorities have warned that the worst is yet to come for Sydney, which is in a 3-week hard lockdown.
Last night to 8 p.m. we had 50 cases of community transmission, and most concerningly, 26 of those were infectious in the community. Now that's the number we need to get down to as close as 0 as possible. And when you know that there's 26 cases that were infectious in the community, the only conclusion we can draw is that things are going to get worse before they get better.
In Europe, the money-making summer season is in jeopardy for the 2nd year in a row as Delta variant sweeps across the continent. Spain's Canary Islands and its Mediterranean region of Valencia have asked the government to bring back curfews to counter soaring cases. The Netherlands has again tightened curbs due to surging infections as Delta variant accounts for at least one-third of new cases. While in Greece, a metalworking company is offering workers nearly $600 to get vaccinated.
Clearly, there are a number of people, as in the general population, that have not been convinced yet about the benefits of being vaccinated. That percentage, because we had to measure it, we saw it about 40%. We thought that by rewarding all those who were responsible, we could build on a trend among those who were more indifferent and change their minds.
The EU, the US, and several European states have signed an accord in Senegal to finance vaccine production in the West African state. Meanwhile, Arab countries promised to help Tunisia as it recorded the highest daily death toll, putting its healthcare system under severe stress. While in India, health authorities have warned that tourist flaunting the social distancing rules can cause a more dangerous third wave.
Meanwhile, Pakistan has reported 35 deaths from COVID-19 and more than 1,800 infections overnight. The Health Ministry says the national death tally has reached 22,555. The ministry said there are over 36,000 active cases, of which more than 2,000 are critical. The caseload has exceeded 971,000, out of which more than 912,000 people have recovered. According to the NCOC, Pakistan has administered over 19 million vaccine doses to date. Earlier, authorities said unvaccinated people will not be allowed to travel by air from August 1st. Now, in Tajikistan, at least 5 people have been killed as an earthquake jolted the eastern part of the country. The magnitude 5.9 quake had a depth of 10 kilometers. Tremors were also felt in the capital, Dushanbe. According to rescue officials, the earthquake damaged dozens of homes and disturbed power lines. Now, in Argentina, hundreds of protesters hit the streets of the capital, Buenos Aires, against the government on Independence Day. This comes as the South American country reels from a failing economy made worse by the pandemic. The demonstrators expressed their discontent with President Alberto Fernandez and his policies. They called for better representation, improved wages and employment opportunities. According to the UN data, Argentina's health crisis is expected to drive millions of people into poverty.
We are here for our homeland, for freedom, for the crop to get out so that our children don't have to leave the country. That is what we want. And we want to live in peace with the government that thinks of the homeland, that thinks of our wages of employment.
Meanwhile, hundreds of farmers protested against the government's measure to limit exports on some beef cuts as well. Now, the UN Security Council has extended a cross-border aid operation into Syria from Turkey. This comes after Russia agreed to a compromise in talks with the US, ensuring UN aid to millions of Syrians for 12 months. The 15-member council unanimously adopted a compromise resolution that asks for a UN report on Syria aid access in 6 months. Diplomats say the resolution does not require another vote in January to again extend the operation. The Council first authorized a cross-border aid operation into Syria in 2014 at 4 points. Last year, it reduced the operation to 1 point from Turkey due to Russian and Chinese opposition over renewing all 4. Now, Nepal floods triggered by heavy rains have paralyzed normal life in Bhaktapur city. Many roads remain submerged, causing inconvenience to people. Authorities said water entered several areas and is affecting the movement of people. They said in less than a month, landslides and flash floods have killed at least 51 people. Heavy rains have damaged roads, destroyed bridges, washed away fish farms and livestock, and wrecked homes. Meanwhile, Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli arrived in flood and landslide ravaged central Bagmati province for observation. Now, moving on, in the US, tropical storm Elsa has dumped rain and heavy wind as it moved into the northeast. However, it has now been designated from a tropical storm to a post-tropical cyclone. Rough surf battered the shore from New Jersey to Massachusetts as the storm moved along the eastern coast. The National Hurricane Center said the storm's maximum sustained wind slowed to 85 kilometers per hour. Meanwhile, the western states are bracing for more scorching weather this weekend after the hottest month of June. The National Weather Service has issued an excessive heat warning for much of the West. It has predicted dangerously hot conditions in multiple states, including California, where temperatures can soar up to 130 degrees Fahrenheit. A Northern California wildfire has also prompted Nevada authorities to evacuate a border area community. More news coming up in this news bulletin after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, Denmark has unveiled the world's tallest sand castle with a height of over 21 meters. The castle, made with nearly 8 tons of sand, is 3.5 meters higher than the previous record. Details in this report.
The sandcastle, built at the Bulletin Sand Sculpture Festival, broke the Guinness World Record previously made in Germany in 2019. Dutch designer Wilfried Steiger said the corona pandemic had inspired the sandcastle. At the top of the castle, he put a coronavirus as a crown to illustrate how the virus is ruling the world.
We started with Corona on top, and we give it a crown because Corona means crown. It's like nice and double, but we give it also a crown because it's ruling our lives everywhere. It tells you what to do. It tells you to wear a mouth protection. It tells you to stay away from your family and not go to the nice places. Don't do the activities. Stay home.
Like many other big sandcastles, it is made as a triangle to prevent collapse. The sand is made up of 10% clay for it to stick better, while an extra layer of glue is also put on to make it last through most of the winter.
I'm amazed. But I'm always amazed when the sculptors are making the sand sculptures. But this year it's amazing. It's a very, very, very beautiful artwork you've never seen before.
The Guinness World Record was measured by an authorized surveyor and will be in the book's next edition. The Bulletin Sand Sculpture Festival takes place every summer, and the sculptures can be seen all year round until the 30th of December.
Now, 4 German tightrope walkers have set a world record by crossing a 2.1 kilometer long and 600 meters high line. The record that they have set in a U-shaped valley in Swedish Lapland may prove difficult to bear. Details in this report. Tightrope walking, also known as funambulism, is one of the most extreme of all air sports. In Bulletin Valley, the highliners wore watches with GPS trackers to measure and verify the distance walked between the 2 anchors. Quirin Herterich was the first to make it without falling and was followed by his compatriots Lucas Ermler, Ruben Langer and Friday Cohen.
This is hard because it's really exposed. It's 600 meters high. It's 2,150 meters. And it's really windy here sometimes. And just getting everyone here is really far out. To get it all organized, it's been a major challenge.
Bulletin is located just outside Abisko National Park inside the Arctic Circle and is a popular hiking destination. At this time of the year, the sun does not set, giving the highliners plenty of time to fry for the record. It took the team 2 days of hard work to rig the line, always mindful of the weather.
This place, Bulletin, is for me an iconic place and a very beautiful landmark of this whole area. And when I started looking at bigger projects, I saw a picture of Bulletin. I haven't seen Bulletin in decades, and just when I saw it, I knew it had to be rigged and crossed.
Others on the team also tried to break the record and failed, but they just wanted to test to walk on the line. Even with a safety harness tethered to the rope, highlining can still be quite dangerous. It is a team sport, and the world record is shared among all the members, including the ones rigging the rope. Now, in Croatia, a sculptor dedicates his time to tracing enormous geometrical sand artworks that last only while the tide is out. More about his disappearing art in this report.
Every year at the Zen Opazin Art Festival in Croatia, Nikola Foller draws patterns in the sands of the Neretva River Delta. He says the opportunities for creativity never end, as the next day a new surface is available to draw on when the waves recede. Foller says his inspiration comes from different traditions with sacred geometry.
I was drawing here when the tide receded. I have 3.5 hours at my disposal now that the tide is coming. I made circles. My inspiration comes from the traditions of sacred geometry around the world, the Christian, Buddhist, Hindu ones. There are plenty of ideas, but time is limited.
The artist plans to organize his own sand art festival on the Neretva River Delta, dedicated to temporary artwork.
Sandwriting is very easy to do. Anyone can do it. We plan to include children in the fall. We will launch a separate festival that will be based only on sand, the Sand Art Neretva. It will be in September at full moon.
Zen Opazin Festival Director Ivan Anchet said Foller delights attendees with his work every year. The art festival includes music, mural paintings and workshops for children, with artists participating from across Europe.
A trove of love letters that American poet Sylvia Plath wrote to her British husband, fellow poet Ted Hughes, is up for auction at Sotheby's.
Plath and Hughes married in 1956, and their relationship was as tumultuous as it was passionate. Her letters to Hughes explore her agony of separation from him while she was studying at Cambridge. The sale comprises 55 lots and comes directly from the collection of Sylvia's daughter, Frida Hughes.
So we're very privileged to be offering a collection of material from Sylvia Plath, coming from her daughter, Frida Hughes, including the wonderful love letters written by her to her husband.
The sale also includes a deck of tarot cards given to Plath by Hughes for her birthday, and a striking ink portrait drawn by Plath during the couple's honeymoon in Benderham.
We have published estimates for the various items, so the photograph album is estimated at £30,000 to £50,000, for example. But these are such unique items that it is very hard to predict how the bidding will go, and we think that there will be very strong interest. And
their wedding rings, family recipes and photo albums are also part of the auction. The items will be sold at Sotheby's in London from July 9 to 21.
More news coming up after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, the Brooklyn Museum in New York has returned 1,305 artifacts to Costa Rica. They were looted during the construction of a railway and brought to the United States in the 19th or earlier 20th century.
An unfinished tombstone, a large ceramic vase painted with beeswax, human representations, and ancient tools to process corn are artifacts from a collection of pieces returned to Costa Rica. It is the second time the Brooklyn Museum in New York City has returned pieces, some older than 2,000 years, to the Central American country.
The pieces were at the Brooklyn Museum because when the Atlantic Railroad was built and Miner Keith extracted the pieces at the time, we have an approximate. There is no clear inventory, but there is an approximate of 16,000 pieces that were taken out of the country. So when these pieces were extracted and reached the United States, Miner Keith distributed them to different museums.
Although the pieces arrived at the end of last year, the handing over of the artifacts was delayed by customs in Costa Rica. Since their return, archaeologists at the National Museum have been in awe and spent the last couple of months listing all the pieces which only now have been displayed.
The important thing about these pieces is that we also have stone and ceramic pieces within the collection. What do I mean? For example, we have stone pieces that were unfinished or were in the process of being made.
There are still more artifacts from Costa Rica and Brooklyn and other museums in the United States.
Now, 3 billionaires, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk and Richard Branson, are vying to lead a new era of private commercial space travel. More about the billionaires' space race in this report.
Branson's Virgin Galactic is set to send a passenger rocket plane on its first fully crewed test flight to the edge of space on the 11th of July. The British billionaire founder is also scheduled to go along for the ride aboard the VSS Unity with 5 other individuals. Meanwhile, Bezos is also set to fly on his company, Blue Origin suborbital rocket ship later this month, but Marco Casares, a senior space analyst, has called both the Branson and Bezos ride-alongs publicity stunts.
Branson has been trying to do this for the last 10 years, and he's had numerous delays, technical delays. He had one accident back in 2014 in which one of the pilots was killed. And so I think he's 70 years old. I think he wants to see his venture succeed, and I think by going up himself, it's a bit of a publicity stunt to some degree, and probably the same thing with Bezos.
Virgin Galactic, Blue Origin and Musk SpaceX are competing head-to-head. But Casares says SpaceX is way out ahead, with ambitions far beyond the few minutes of weightlessness the other two are offering.
And we have liftoff. Go New Shepard.
In many ways, Musk has already won it because he has launched countless missions over the last 5 to 6 years. I believe in the last few years he's been launching more than 20 missions to Earth orbit, not suborbit. And I believe he's planning to launch up to 40 missions just this year alone. So in terms of the race to Earth orbit, by far, he's the winner.
An earlier prototype of the Virgin Galactic rocket plane crashed during a test flight in 2014, killing one pilot and injuring another. Casares believes that while a failure on Branson's part could set back the space tourism industry, its success could accelerate it.
Now, Germany says all members of the G20 back a deal to stop multinationals from shifting profits to low tax havens. Talking to the media alongside the US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, Germany's Finance Minister Olaf Scholz said the club made big progress on reforming business tax. He confirmed that all G20 economies were on board for the pact. But the Treasury Secretary said a handful of countries were still opposed to it. Yellen said she will work to address the concerns of holdout countries. And now let's have a look at how the weather is doing around the world. And that is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.